All right, good day, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. And as you can tell, I'm in Texas. So, anyways, there's that. Anyways, I want to talk about something I read in Acts chapter 10, verse 24 through 26. Just a brief part of this passage. Very interesting. It says this: the following day they entered Caesarea. Now Cornelius was waiting for them. The people, they implied there's a whole context here, but they is Peter and some other guys that are with him, right? Cornelius was waiting for them, and he had called together his relatives and close friends. As Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshiped him. Okay, this is interesting. But Peter lifted him up, saying, "Stand up. I myself am also a man." What he's telling him is basically, you cut it out. I'm just like you. We're no different. We're two men. Don't worship me. It's interesting. We see even in the book of Revelation, we see the Apostle John falling at the feet of an angel, and he says, "Hey, cut that out," right? I'm not somebody to be worshipped. And this is a good point. Listen, I think today in our world, people gravitate towards worshiping men. They worship other people in different ways, and it's wrong, okay? And I'm going to say this, I feel like it needs to be said because it happens in the church. People overestimate, or they value certain men, and it causes all sorts of weird things. I can't tell you how many of the pastors in the last decade that I've heard that fell into some, adultery, some sort of wicked sin, and they basically get to this point where they're acting like they're rock stars and they're untouchable, okay? And they completely isolate themselves from everybody around them, and then it just leaves an open door for them to walk in wickedness. And it's a problem. It's a problem when that happens, and it's a problem when men worship other men to the point where they will never talk to them openly about things that concern them, where they will never confront them, where they will never really say, "Hey, there's an issue here. It needs to be dealt with." And this is an important thing, right? There's another part to this, not just that it leaves that open, but what really is the danger, or one of the many dangers, there are so many dangers about it when one person worships another person, or literally esteems them as God, okay? The other problem is, it leaves them open to be completely controlled and manipulated against God's will, okay? There's that. It can become a really ugly situation. The other thing that is a major problem here, and that is when that person that's being worshiped, when they do fall, or when they do mess something up in their life, or they do create, some sort of calamity, or maybe it doesn't go that far, but inevitably, since it's a man, that man is going to fail in one way or another. He's going to be in the flesh. He's going to be angry, or he's going to misjudge something. We're people, right? We make mistakes. The person's going to make a mistake, and it's going to leave the worshiper, the person that worships the ground they walk on, completely lost because they put their faith in the wrong thing. And when you put your faith in the wrong thing, whether it's a man or anything other than the Lord, you're literally building your house on the sand. Like Jesus said, don't do that. Dig down to the rock, build your foundation on the rock. So when things come, when it gets difficult, your house will stand. Well, if you're putting your faith in this man completely, when that man fails, or when that man does something that doesn't make sense to you, it is going to really cause a crisis in your life. And the next thing you know, you're going to be lost. You're going to feel lost and hopeless because you were counting on that person. This actually happened to the disciples. It happened where they were completely despondent, lost, and hopeless, and it was because they forgot the words of Christ. When Jesus was killed on the cross, they were completely, the world was shattered. And you see this when these guys were walking down the road to Emmaus. You see them, kicking rocks and just like ho hum, right? And then Jesus comes along after his resurrection. He meets these guys and he says, "Hey, what's the problem here, guys? Like, man, where have you been?" Basically, that's what they say. We thought this guy was the answer, and it turns out he wasn't the answer, and we don't know what's going on. And then Jesus reminds them of what the scripture says. And even the disciples, it wasn't until they saw the Lord resurrected that they remembered, oh, that's right, that's what he said, right? So they even experienced this, but it was because they failed to remember his words to them when he explained to them exactly what was going to happen. But all of that to say is, it's a huge, huge trap. We have to be careful of two things. And you may say, oh, that's never going to happen to me. But be careful. You have to be on your guard. We should never be worshipped by men, okay? That's one thing. And we should never worship other men. I mean, obviously this goes along with women, I'm just saying men as mankind here, right? We should never fall into that trap. It is a trap, and it is horrible. And the nature, our fleshly nature, gravitates towards worshiping anything other than God, okay? So we have to be on our guard about that. We have to get to the point where we say, all of my worship is only going to be towards the Lord. I'm not going to worship any man. I'm not going to worship anything. I'm going to, do what the scripture says. I'm going to flee from idolatry. I'm going to flee from that sort of wickedness. And it is wickedness. That's the bent of sin to drive you towards idolatry. So you have to be on your guard about that. And now more than ever, because it seems like more and more people, it's getting confused in the church, okay? It must have been happening in the early church. We see it happening here, obviously. But, we have to put our trust in the Lord and not in a man. God can do anything. Men can only do what God allows them to do or what he empowers them to do. So it's totally foolish to trust in that man. We have to trust in the Lord. So I hope that encourages you today. Take a minute to consider this. It's important. It's so important. Consider if you're caught in that trap. And if it is, it's time to get things right, okay? And please leave a comment. I always love that. Take some time, click the like button, subscribe to this to my channel. That would bless me, and I will see you again tomorrow. God bless.